It's time for the Douglas Coleman Show. Mr. Smooth and Savvy is joined by guests from all walks of life. From the entertainment industry to authors to political and social commentators. The famous and not so famous. The controversial and the light and fluffy. We have it all. Now, here is Douglas Coleman.
Well, hello there, Heidi ho there. Welcome to the Douglas Coleman Show. It's me, Douglas Coleman. How are ya? We've got a good show for you today. We've got a good show for you every week. Mondays at 3 p.m. Eastern with a rebroadcast on our AM and FM affiliates. Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So please tune in weekly. We always have something new and something exciting for you. This week we've got Norm Alajim. Norm is a successful Hollywood talent manager and film producer, and he's an author as well. He's written a book called From Me to You, which is a collection of letters that he wrote to his young daughter as she was growing up, and he compiled them, and now it's a book. A very interesting story. He'll tell us all about that during the interview. In the second half of the show, we've got music from various artists, a couple of new tracks and some old favorites. First up is Be Happy by Artists at Play, followed by The Never-Ending Pageant by Colin Klein, Greek Statue Reflection by Daddy Warbucks, Memories by Dr. Optimizer. This one's an instrumental, which we don't do that many instrumentals, so I was excited to play this one. Been So Many Years by Joe Gandy, and finally Running in Circles by Villa Avenue. So I hope everybody is doing well, and we'll be right back with Norman Alajim. Okay, please welcome to the Douglas Coleman Show, Norman Alajim. Hi, Norman. How are you?
I'm good, Douglas. How are you doing?
Good. Do you prefer Norman or Norm?
Oh, either way.
Okay.
My friends call me Norm.
All right. I use Douglas because there is a Doug Coleman in Hollywood who's a stuntman.
Oh, how funny.
I didn't want to get confused. Not that anybody would confuse me for a stuntman if you ever saw me, but, I just didn't want to, because most of the stuff we do is online, so I didn't want to get confused. So I use Douglas.
To my knowledge, there are no other Norm or Norman Alajims in the industry or otherwise.
I think you're probably safe, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so you are a Hollywood talent manager and producer. I'm just looking over your bio here that Darlene sent.
Yep.
You started out as an attorney. Actually, this is a two-part question. How and why did you transition from being a lawyer to a talent manager?
Well, that's a good question. I think that when I was a young lawyer, I was a little bit bored with the law part of it. I thought it was a little bit too far removed from the creative process. And although I like to say I'm not sure I have any artistic talent, I do have artistic interest, and I wanted to do something where I was a little more creatively involved in the whole process. Being a lawyer by training helps me quite a bit as a manager and as a producer.
You were an entertainment lawyer?
I was.
Well, that's halfway in,
It's halfway in.
I mean,
it's halfway in, yes.
Do you know Neville Johnson by chance?
I don't. Who is that?
He's an entertainment lawyer, probably right in your neck of the woods, somewhere in Beverly Hills. I had him on the show about, must be close to a year ago. He represented all kinds of people. The notable one was he was the attorney for Fleetwood Mac for many years.
Oh, that's interesting. Oh, see, he must have been more on the music side. I was more on the film and television side. And weirdly, those tend not to intersect that much.
Okay, yeah, that's true, because, all his clients were musicians. That is true.
Yeah, that's why.
Funny that they wouldn't intersect. You'd think they would.
You would think they would. You would think they would, and sometimes they do insofar as, music recording artists want to do films and TV, or actors want to do music. At that point, they sometimes will intersect.
It seems like every actor wants to be a musician, and every musician wants to be an actor.
Well, you know the joke about Mother Teresa, right? When she won the Nobel Prize and she said, "I really want to direct."
I haven't heard that one. That's pretty good.
It's funny because it's probably true.
I would believe it, yeah. You also produced a few films. Tell us a little about the films that you produced. Now, was this before you started your company, or was it after that?
One was before, and then I've done several after. I produced a movie called Firewalker with Lou Gossett Jr. and Chuck Norris. That's before I started my company. And then in this company, I've produced a couple of films. I produced a film called Jimmy Westwood that starred Maz Jobrani and the late John Hurd. And then we're in post-production now on a film I just produced called Simple Wedding, which stars Rita Wilson, the Iranian actress Shohreh Aghdashloo, Peter McKenzie from Blackish, and a wonderful young actress named Tara Grammy.
Oh, great. I wanted to ask you a little bit about the industry, just because I've had so many indie filmmakers on, and like music, indie film is, sort of DIY, is really making a mark and taking a little bit of steam away from the major studios. Are you working primarily with indies, or are you working with the major studios, or both, or?
Both. As a producer, I work in both worlds. The two movies that I've just produced were both indies. Firewalker was a studio film. I'm developing a film at Paramount right now. So yeah, I work across the board. Some projects are more designed to be bigger studio movies, and some projects are designed to be cool indies.
Well, it's interesting to me because I've watched a lot of these indie films from the filmmakers that have been on the show, and they send me, screeners and things. And I tell you, it's getting very difficult to tell, if you think, oh, that's not quite up to speed. I mean, some of these things are right up there. You couldn't tell that it wasn't done in a major studio at all. The difference seems to be the franchises. I don't think an indie guy is going to try to tackle Star Wars or the Marvel Comics or some of those type films. But if you have like a romance film or just a good drama, it's amazing the quality of the films that you can do on your own, basically.
Yeah, look, the reality is that the main difference tends to be budget, right? To your point, the studios are doing the franchises and the Marvel pieces and, movies that cost $100 million and up.
Right.
But in terms of quality, there are some wonderful, wonderful films that are, very, very low budget, but still very high quality. It's funny. I always say that with the advent of technology and the democratization of content, it used to be that people, there were 500 movies a year being made, and half a dozen of them were good. And now there's 5,000 movies being made, and half a dozen of them are good. So,
well, it's true. I mean, the technology is kind of a double-edged sword. It has enabled anyone to make a film, which is great. Right. But the bad side is it has enabled anyone to make a film.
Yeah, that's right. The good news and the bad news is the same.
It's the same thing. Yes, exactly true. All right, so you've got a book out that we should probably...
Well, it's coming out in a week. It's coming out August 7th.
August 7th, okay.
Shameless plug, you can pre-order on Amazon right now.
It's called From Me to You.
Yes.
And this was kind of interesting because these were just letters that you wrote to your daughter.
Yeah.
And then I assume you just compiled them into a book. Is that how that happened?
Well, it happened slightly like that and slightly by accident. In other words, people have asked me, when did I set out to become an author? And I say, I didn't really set out to become an author. I set out to write letters to my youngest daughter. And what happened was I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to write her a letter a week for a year. And then, because you're an artist yourself, that process is hard. And so I wrote the first letter. And then it was the next week, and it was time to write the second letter, and I was staring at the blank page and had no idea what to write. And so I thought, to hold myself accountable, what I did was I took the first letter and I posted it on my social media, and I said, this is my new blog. It's letters to my youngest daughter. I'm going to be posting one letter a week. Look for it here. Because I thought, well, I'll be embarrassed if I then don't do it. And so, sure enough, I wrote her a letter a week for a year. And then it just sort of sat there. The blog was quite widely read. A lot of people said to me, oh, this should be a book. And, as a talent manager myself, it's a little bit of that Dr. Heal Thyself. If you wrote a book, I would sell it tomorrow morning. But for me, it was, I don't know, who knows, whatever, I have things to do. And then about a year ago or so, very randomly, a friend of mine literally friended me on Facebook, and he happens to be a book publishing agent. And so he just read my blog, and he called me up and said, this is really good. I think this should be a book, and I think I can sell it. And he did.
Now, how old was your daughter when you first started these letters?
When I first started writing the letters, my daughter was 10 or 11.
Okay, now were you giving them to her as you wrote them, or were you just keeping them in a drawer? Or on the computer?
I was keeping them in a digital drawer.
Digital drawer, okay.
Yeah, and look, at the time that I was writing the letters, I did not think that my daughter, that the subject, I mean, they're wonderful letters. They speak of my love for her and my experiences with her and my other daughters and my family. But there were more adult themes in terms of savoring them. And so she knew I was writing the letters. But my goal was that as we approached her 18th birthday, I would literally bind the letters in a book and give them to her as a keepsake for her 18th birthday. That was my goal at the time.
Well, that's a great present. Now, I've never heard of anybody doing that.
Well, thank you. I'm sure she would have wanted others as well, but that's the present I wanted her to have.
Well, I think that's more valuable. I mean, a lot of parents put money away for their college fund, which is valuable too, but this has a very emotional sort of sentimental value, which you can't put a price tag on.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. It does, and look, my hope is that as she gets older and has her own family and all that, it gives her some sense of who I was. One of the interesting things is, again, a shameless plug number 2, the book is also available on Audible, and the reason I say that is about a month ago or so, I got to read the letters. I was given the opportunity to actually read the book for Audible, and when I got in the booth, I said to the sound producer, I said, look, you haven't read the book. I just want to tell you and apologize in advance because at least half a dozen times as I read these, I'm sure I'm going to start bawling like a baby. Because it's really quite, it's quite moving at the notion that, in 50 years she'll be able to listen to this and listen to my voice as I talk to her about faith and family and my love for her and things we did together when she was 5 or 10 or whatever.
Is that acceptable on an audiobook to start crying? I mean, does that add to the emotional impact?
I don't think so. I think when I broke down, we stopped.
Okay.
I composed myself, and then we kept going.
Because I don't know. I mean, I haven't listened to too many audiobooks, but the ones I have listened to are pretty much straight the way they.
I have not heard. That's really funny, Douglas. I have not heard anyone bawling, and if you listen to my book, you will not hear me crying either.
Okay. One of the questions on your sheet here that I did want to hit was, and I'm assuming that this was one of the ones you wrote about in the letter, said, how does a father tell his child how to avoid the mistakes he made? What were some of the mistakes that you made that you told her to try to avoid?
Well, look, I'm not sure I talk so much about specific mistakes, but I will give you a perfect example. One of the chapters is called The Importance of Failure. And, in life, as you're growing up and in your formative years, the people positioned to guide your thinking always talk to you about the importance of success. And I thought it was important to talk to her about the importance of failure and the willingness to risk failure to arrive at success and to arrive at happiness. And so I talked to her about that, and I do give a couple of specific examples. I've been a very entrepreneurial person my entire life, and like most entrepreneurial people and most artistically minded people, I've had spectacular successes and spectacular failures, and I wanted her to know that failure is just an event. It's not a state of being, and that your willingness to risk failure is how you get to happiness and how you get to success.
Well, that's very true. I forget now who said it. I think it was Theodore Roosevelt, now that I think about it, said the man who never makes a mistake is the man who's never done anything.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and it's very true. I mean, the brilliant people have made lots of mistakes.
Yeah, look, and again, I was telling somebody the other day, because I'm a big baseball fan, and we were talking about Ty Cobb. I don't know if you're a baseball fan, but if you are, you may know that Ty Cobb is probably the greatest hitter to ever put on a baseball uniform. When he retired, Ty Cobb had a batting average, something like a career batting average of about 360. No one has ever even come close. And at 360, that means he had something like a 64% failure rate. That's the greatest hitter in history.
Right. Yes, exactly.
I just don't want her to fear failure. I want her, don't get me wrong, I want her to have a visceral antipathy to failure, as I do, but I want her to be willing to reach for her holy grail and not worry about that.
On here it says your daughter is a working actor. Now, how old is she now?
She will be 17 in September. My daughter was actually born on 9/11, about an hour before the planes hit the tower.
Wow. Well, now that's something.
About that. I wrote her a letter called On the Day That You Were Born, which talks about that.
Oh, my God. Where were you when she was born? Were you in L.A.?
Yeah, we were in Los Angeles.
Oh, thank God. If you were in New York, that would have been an even more
yeah, can you imagine?
Dramatic event. I don't know if I'd want that for my birthday. I think I would have my birthday changed.
Well, I guess we'll leave that to her to figure out when she's 18. But I will tell you this. One of the darkest days in our history is also one of the happiest days of my life. And it really shows you sort of the yin and the yang of life.
Well, that's very true. That's a good point. So it says she's been working as a child actress. Is she still working as an actress?
I digress. She is. She is now in regular high school, and I think has found cheerleading and boys and dancing and all that. So I think her interests are now a little bit more expanded. But every so often she'll go on an audition or do a episode of a TV show or whatever. But she's not doing it as much as when she was younger.
Was that your idea or hers?
Oh my God, it was hers. I fought it desperately.
Why did you do that? I'm curious.
I'll tell you why, because I work in the entertainment industry, and I know how tough it is. I know how much rejection is involved. I didn't want her to not have a regular childhood, as I would call it. And my thought was, look, if that's in her, she can do that when she's an adult. But I will say she was really driven to it. She wouldn't take no for an answer from the time she was really a little pipsqueak. And, what I have found in my life is it's so hard, at any age really, to find something that you're genuinely passionate about that, who was I to say she couldn't do it if it's something she really wanted.
I hear that story a lot from famous parents who have children, and they really want the kids to have a, quote unquote normal life. I'm not sure what that means exactly, but
me neither. Yeah.
It's always because I think they know, how crazy the life is. But sometimes it doesn't even work out that way because the parents can be so famous that they can't even go out. And if they go out with their kids, there's paparazzi all over them.
Douglas.
But you know what I mean.
I can go out just fine.
You know what I mean. It's like there's levels of fame. But what I'm saying is that the ones that are very famous tend to not want their kids to follow in their footsteps.
I also don't think that it's necessarily just entertainment related. I know professional athletes who don't want their kids to become professional athletes because they know, look, it's like anything else. The downside of celebrity. It's not all limousines and red carpets.
No, it's that for about 10 minutes, and the rest of it is just a lot of hard work.
That's right. I always say to aspiring young actors that if the reason they want to be actors is so they can go to premieres and ride in limousines, they should simply rent a limousine for the night. It's much cheaper and easier.
Or just write a blog, and then you can get a press pass, and you can go stand on the red carpet. Now, I tell you, everybody is on the red carpet now. Anybody with a blog can get on the red carpet.
No doubt.
Again,
No
it's
doubt.
like we were talking about the technology. Now there's 5,000 people on the red carpet instead of 50.
That's exactly right. And it's interesting because, look, the other thing for a kid actor is to really know a balance. And I will say my wife, I got very lucky in her as my wife, but also she is an uber parent. And, you know, I've told some friends the story. This is not in the book, but I've told my friends the story. You know, my daughter was a series regular in a series called Nurse Jackie, the Showtime series. She played Edie Falco's youngest daughter on the show, and the show was on for 6 years. And one of those years, the show got nominated for a SAG Award for Best Ensemble Cast.
Wow.
And that included my daughter. So when we were going to the event, you know, a famous, I can't remember who it was, but a famous designer of children's clothes gave her this $6,000, or not gave her, but loaned her a $6,000 dress, and the studio sent a limo, and she had a hair and makeup, you know, glam squad, and we went, and she met, you know, Denzel Washington and whoever else, and I mean, really, as much of the fairy tale of life as anybody could ever live at the age of 11 or 12. And so we got home about 1:30 in the morning from the awards show and the parties and whatever, and the next morning my wife came to my daughter Mackenzie and said, "So did you have a good time last night?" And Mackenzie said, "Oh my God, it was so great, and you know, I met this person and I did that and the red carpet and whatever." And my wife said to her, "Well, that's all great. Now, clean your room and then come downstairs and do the rest of your chores." Right? So it's a wonderful way to balance those events with real life.
I mean, did she get that, or did she go, "No, I'm not cleaning my room"?
Yes, she gets that. She really does get that.
That is good. Because I think some of them, one of the problems that I think we've all noticed is a lot of kids just can't handle it, especially ones that get mega famous real young. The one that's coming to mind is Justin Bieber. And
I can't speak for him specifically. I don't know him, but I will tell you that, you know, sometimes I will say, I will only speak for us. I did not need my daughter to work to pay the rent or to meet celebrities or any of that stuff. And so we were able to keep it in check. We let her do it because she loved doing it. You know, and hopefully she is and will remain a well-adjusted young woman.
It seems a little bit better now, I don't know, than maybe it was, because there have been more children actors that have transitioned into adult actors successfully. Back in the, you know, the old days, in the 60s and 70s, that didn't seem to happen as much. Maybe it's more the advent of the indie films. I don't know, but there was a lot of them that just really burned out. And I don't see as much of that anymore.
I have no idea about that. That's interesting if that's true.
Well, maybe like again, it's going back to what we keep coming around in a circle, because, you know, at that point maybe there were only 50 child actors.
Yeah.
You know?
We keep coming back to the theme of this show today.
The whole interview today is about how technology has kicked the door wide open, and now there's 5,000 people in the room.
Exactly.
That's what we've done. All right, Norm. Well, let's end on that note. Actually, though, before we go, Darlene said that you were going to read something. Do you want to read as our close, as our going out?
I'm happy to. If you want me to. She told me that you may want me to read an excerpt from the book, so I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, I think that would be a great way to go out. Why don't you read us an excerpt?
So let me read an excerpt from one of the chapters, which is called True Love. And in the chapter, I talked to, just to set it up for you, in the chapter I talked to my daughter about true love in literature, the Romeo and Juliets, and, you know, Shrek and Fiona, and Tristan and Isolde and all that, and what it all means. And then I sort of bring it back around to her, so I'll read you a little excerpt of that, if you'd like.
Okay, sounds good.
In the not-too-distant future, your heart will start to search for true love. You'll be tempted to make lists of the traits that make up your perfect mate. Try not to do that. He has to be funny, or we should meet in a romantic way, or he has to have a job, have little to do with love or the perfect mate. Well, having a job would be good. You'll be tempted to think that if he is the one, love will blossom on its own. That's not true. Cupid can shoot his arrows till the cows come home. Unless you are bold and courageous and willing to risk, Cupid's arrows may miss their mark. You'll be tempted to listen to your friends when they tell you someone is right for you or wrong for you. There's nothing wrong with getting advice on love, but as the saying goes, the heart is a lonely hunter. Your friends may be well-intentioned, but in the end, only what's in your heart and his truly matters. Be open to all that the universe may bring your way, my sweet daughter. Relationships aren't always easy, but falling in love should be. Chemistry, pheromones, swooning, those elements are all crucially important. If your new love doesn't take your breath away every so often, that person may not be the one for you. But pheromones and chemistry are only part of the equation. Your mom's sparkly green eyes make me swoon, but so does her kindness. Her touch takes my breath away, but so does her love of you and your sisters. Listen to your heart, pay attention to the signals your body sends you, look inside your soul. And don't give short shrift to those things about a person that only being together over time can reveal. For in the end, whether it's Snow White and Prince Charming, Shrek and Fiona, Romeo and Juliet, or Norman and Laura, that is the stuff true love is made of. All my everlasting love, Dad.
Hey, that was great. Beautiful.
Thank you. Well, thank you. It was fun to write. The book was so fulfilling to write. The stories gave me, hopefully this will be wonderful for my family, but the stories gave me such pleasure and fulfillment to write, I cannot even tell you.
When did your daughter find out that you wrote all this? And when she read it, what was her reaction?
Well, she knew I was writing the letters as I was writing them when she was 10 or 11. I think it came into sort of sharp relief when my agent friend told me he had an offer to get the book published. And I went to her and I said, if you remember the letters that I wrote, someone wants to publish them. How would you feel about that? Because obviously I would never have done that if she felt weird about it or, had second thoughts or whatever.
Right.
So at that point, I think that's when she really realized, that I had done it, what it was, what I was doing. And she seemed, quite tickled that they were going to be published. Although now I don't know if you have teenage kids, but teenage kids are in their own world. She's a little too cool for school. But I think secretly she's really delighted.
The book is called From Me to You, and it is coming out on August 7th, available on Amazon. And like you said, it's Amazon pre-order now, right?
Yep.
Also on Audible as an audiobook, no crying.
No crying. There's no crying in baseball.
Noam, thanks so much for coming on. It was a lot of fun talking to you.
Oh, Douglas, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
You're listening to Mr. Smooth and Savvy right here on The Douglas Coleman Show. We'll be right back after these commercial messages.
Tired of living in a culture of lies, fake news, and alternative facts? The Pro-Truth Pledge reverses the tide of lies by calling on politicians, and everyone else, to commit to truth-oriented behaviors. The pledge asks signees to commit to 12 behaviors that research in behavioral science shows lead to truthfulness, such as clarifying one's opinions and the facts, citing one's sources, and celebrating people who update their beliefs toward the truth. Private citizens who sign the pledge get the benefit of contributing to a more truth-oriented society. Public figures get more substantive rewards for signing the pledge in the form of positive media and public recognition. The pledge crowdsources the truth by asking volunteers to evaluate the statements of public figures who sign the pledge. Take the pledge, demand that your elected representatives do so, and encourage your friends to take it at protruthpledge.org.
After the loss of my dog Mandy, I had difficulty sleeping. She had been my best friend for years. She slept on the end of my bed, and I found her snoring soothing. it was difficult for me, as I also found little support for my grief. Not being able to sleep was the worst. I decided to create an audiobook to help people like me. Listen to my voice as you drift into a peaceful sleep, taking a journey using your dog's memories, accompanied by rain falling, birds singing, and a waterfall. To get your download, go to Amazon and search Relax by Jane Yates. Thanks to Douglas Coleman for the spot.
Hi there, this is Stuart Epps from the UK, record producer, engineer. You might have heard of me. I've worked with artists from Elton John to Led Zeppelin to Bad Company, Twisted Sister, Robbie Williams, Oasis, many, many great bands and artists in the past and the present and hopefully in the future. But you can work with me as well. You know, all you got to do is get in touch with me on eppsmusicproductions.com. That's EPPsproductionsmusic.com. And I can help you with your productions and with your recordings. A lot of people do home recordings now, which you can only take so far. Maybe they need a bit of professional help. So get in touch with me and we can sort it out. And thanks for Douglas Coleman for giving me the spot. Thanks a lot. Cheers, bye.
DJC Music and DJC Productions are pleased to announce a brand new website. We have started a listing website for radio show hosts as well as potential show guests. This is a meeting site where hosts and guests can come together. Show hosts can list their show and types of guests they're interested in booking. Potential guests can list their talents, bio, accomplishments, or anything they feel makes them an interesting radio show guest. There are no recurrent payments, only a one-time $5 listing fee. Your listing will stay up until you decide to cancel. Previous guests of The Douglas Coleman Show are welcome to submit their guest listing free of charge. Go to radiohostsandguests.com. That's radiohostsandguests.com.
That play, baby. You might be satisfied, but there's only one life to live. Life to live. Can't stop until I die, 'cause there's too much I wanna get on to be happy. And so I hustle on, I wanna be happy. And so I hustle on, can I be happy? And so I hustle on, just let me be happy. And be happy, and be happy. I just wanna be happy. I'm just trying to be a giant like Manning, trying to get paid by the ton like Manning. It's gotta come from all directions. Panic. See, that's rapping, and I don't know what y'all call what's happening. My destination, I mapped it, so I'm speeding through life with no seatbelt strapped in. Hater Boulevard, I passed it. People there always got words like captions, so I take a snap pic and remember where I came from, but never look back. Try to hold me down like a flat, it's just an illusion. You must know magic. Get you not that fast yet. Go on and hate to stay stuck to the bull like Mastiff. You might be satisfied, but there's only one life to live. Life to live. Can't stop until I die, 'cause there's too much I wanna get on to be happy. Just let me be happy. Yeah, I try to keep a smile on my face all day, man.
It's all mind over matter. If I really don't mind, then it really don't matter. And like I was next up to batter, the game's in my hands, spaces loaded, that shattered. Yeah, you boy knocked it out the passer. And see all my haters get mad like Hatter. Oh well, I guess my head'll get fatter. Y'all holding up the same old grudge, piss full of bladder. See now you got me talking backwards, but I ain't for it, gotta make my way up the ladder. Without a daddy, I'm a bastard. Without my haters, all I'll be is just an ordinary rapper. So thanks, but at the same time kissing. I'm going away where all the hate came visit. I be no ghost, but I got the spirit. Happy is a state of mind, if you feel it.
You might be satisfied, but there's only one life to live, life to live. Can't stop until I die, 'cause there's too much I wanna get on to be happy. And so I hustle on, and so I hustle on, can I be happy?
Man, I tell you right now, man, I'm feeling on top of the world, man. I can't even describe it. Angelo, sing it for me.
Better it is to be talking bad about me than not talking about me at all. I love the way y'all promote me to my haters. Y'all know the one, but not the pinky ring. The point of the dog
Let's do it. H-A-double-B-Y. Cause I gotta be fly. I keep my head to the sky. No matter what, it's odd all the time. Whatever makes you happy. Whatever keeps the whole stadium clapping. All the hate keep passing. We all look like a chip, like a bit freak nasty.
You might be satisfied, but there's only one life to live, life to live. Can't stop until I die, 'cause there's too much I wanna get on to be happy. I wanna be happy. Can I be happy? Just let me be happy, and be happy, and be happy.
Yes, I'm so tired of this never-ending purge and go. Come on, why you let me go? 'Cause God, I'm tired of these songs that you're giving to me. Sorry, I can't do this anymore. And I don't know what I'm thinking. Maybe I'm tired, never-ending pageants, Messiah. Chop down my line, and won't you let me go? Cause God, I'm high with this chop that you're giving to me. She lit a fire in my soul. Give me one more try on those songs that you're giving to me. Sing them to my children evermore. And I don't know what I'm thinking. Maybe I'm tired, never-ending pageants, Messiah. Drop down my line, I'll never let you go. of this never-ending purging story. I can do this anymore.
In the evening she's a woman, in the daytime she's a girl. I think she's nice. In the morning she's a vision, her Greek statue reflections start to speak. And all the frozen answers remind the frozen questions not to speak. Now is the time I told you, you may find a better love to hold you. It's not my time. Just because the leaves are dry, just because the leaves are dry, and because you know that I am fading in the night, just because you know that you can never really love me more than you are in love. My, just because the leaves are
It's been so many years since I was a fool, baby. I've been to many changes in my life. Have you ever
that part with like the extra guitars in the beginning, like it sounds kind of cool.
Well, that's about all the time we've got for the show today. I want to thank my special guest, Norman Alajim, and also thank you to Music by Artists at Play, Colin Klein, Daddy Warbucks, Dr. Optimizer, Joe Gandy, and Villa Avenue. This is Douglas Coleman saying I'll see you when I see you.
To the